Would you put your parents in a home? And what if you knew that the nearest home wasn't the best quality home, but hey, they promised they'll take care of mum or dad, so in they go to the old nursing home. Would you do it? Maybe you've already done it. Or maybe you've got children, and sometimes you ask yourself, are my kids going to put me in a home? What do you think about this? I've got rather strong opinions on all of this, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. But first, I want your opinions. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about the fact that in the Western world, the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, England, countries like this is what people do. Their parents get old and they say, okay then, I'm going to put you in a home. What do you think about this? Of course, in The Simpsons, which many of us were raised by, this was, it was a joke, wasn't it? They put Grandpa in a home and they threatened that if he didn't behave himself, they'd put him in an even worse home.
Well, we brought some pizza.
If you don't start making more sense, we're gonna have to put you in a home.
You already put me in a home.
Then we'll put you in the crooked home we saw in 60 Minutes.
I'll be good.
Oh, how we laughed at the idea of Homer putting Grandpa Simpson in a crooked home. We thought it was very funny, didn't we? We thought it was very funny. Well, it's not all fun and games for these poor old people who end up in a home and they think to themselves, how did I end up here? Why am I here? And yet it is true that if this video that you're watching right now gets seen by, let's just say 1,000 people. My last upload got 1,000 views, so maybe this one will as well. Let's just say that 1,000 people see this video. Statistically, it's quite likely that dozens, if not hundreds of you, either have put your parents in a home or you plan to do so. Now, I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to say that you're a bad person. But in just a moment, I'll tell you why I never want to end up in a so-called nursing home or an aged care facility. And if I reach, let's say I make it to 70 years old, let's just say that I do, and I'm no longer able to look after myself, let's just say, and then someone says, don't worry, Pops, we're going to put you in a home. I honestly believe I'll be like, oh yeah, no worries. I'll lead them on to think that I'm going to the home. But actually, I'm going to find myself a boat, maybe a small dinghy or something. I'm going to take the best drugs I can find, alcohol if that's all there is available, but hopefully something better than that. And I'm going for a long cruise in the boat, out into the ocean, and I'm never coming back, which I think is a much better option than going into a home. I'll tell you why in just a moment. Now, why am I asking you all of these questions? You might be, look at these photos, by the way, on Google. Look at this. Photos on Google. Oh yeah, the old ducks, they're having fun with their orange juice. Oh look, they're celebrating. Look where you're gonna end up. Oh look, they've got carers here as well. Look at all the smiles. Smiling for the cameras. Don't worry everybody. It's gonna be like in Animal Farm when the old horse goes to the knackery. Don't worry everybody, you're gonna have a great time in your retirement. Oh yeah, look at this nonsense, goodness gracious me. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, so, why am I asking you guys this question? Well, recently we had the member Discord call for johnthebond.com, the season finale. And across 3 different recordings, we saw no less than 17 people join us. For the first part, which was 3 hours, 7 people from around the world came and joined us. For the second part, 2 hours, we recorded that in person, live in the makeshift studio at the Chateau Louis in southern France. Very nice. And then for the final part, we saw some OGs. Chad the OG, Mezzy the OG, and then Dante, haven't seen him for a long time, another OG, came out of the woodwork for the season finale. And look at all these different people who came and joined us. Goodness gracious me, it was a lot of fun. And one of the topics that came up, I was asking people was, do you think that you are entitled to your parents' money? Let's just say they bought a house before the housing boom. Now the house is worth $1 million, maybe even $2 million, depending on where they live. Between that and some superannuation, whatever, if they were to pass on, then you and your brothers and or sisters might be in line to collect some money. But what if you discover your parents didn't leave you any money? What if you discover your parents spent their last 5 years cruising, seeing the world, drinking the best drinks, eating at the finest restaurants, spending $5,000 a week, cruising the Bahamas, and they left you nothing. How would you feel about that? How would you feel about that? Or maybe you are in your older years, your later years, and you're starting to think 10, 20 years down the line, and you're thinking to yourself, do my kids deserve a cent of my money? What if your kids are shitheads? What if somehow they've turned out to be left-leaning, neo-Marxist, blue-haired, Rage Against the Machine, pro-mandates, pro-masks, pro-force people to quit their jobs unless they get the jibby jab buffoons? Would you leave them any money? In a way, I would say if your kids turned out that way, that'd kind of be your fault. But putting all of that aside, the point is, these questions about family, money, how we view ourselves as part of a so-called family unit, family values, very important stuff, very important. And so I had read this Reddit thread maybe in the 2 or 3 days before we recorded this grand spectacular for the season 3 episode 33 finale of the Remember Discord Call series. I'd read this Reddit thread where somebody was saying that they had been left out of their parents' will and they felt aggrieved about it because they had cared for their parent, I think it was their mum, in the last 2 years or something. And then in her will, somehow the brother had got the money, but the brother hadn't helped look after the mum. And so the daughter felt aggrieved, according to her version of events. And then there was this whole thread, thousands of replies of people talking about inheritance. And one of the points that people were making was, suppose you're 30, 40, around this age, if you haven't bought a house already, then you might feel priced out of the market. And you might be feeling, well, your parents benefited from the housing boom over the last 20 years or whatever. So their assets have gone up largely thanks to their net worth has gone up largely thanks to the housing boom. And if you're 30 or 40 or whatever and you don't have a house, you feel like you missed out. So you kind of feel like it's incumbent on the parents to make sure that once they're gone, you can use some of the wealth that they have accumulated through this housing boom to help yourself, you might be thinking. But then on the flip side, are you planning to look after your parents in their old age, or are you planning to put them in a home? Very vexing question. As you see, I find things like the dinosaur hoax endlessly fascinating. It's amazing to me that the whole world is convinced that 70 million years ago, there were these lizard birds stomping around and eating from 30-meter tall trees and this kind of shit, right? People really believe this stuff. That's amazing to me. But at the end of the day, whether these monsters ever existed, which they didn't, or if they did exist, which they didn't, doesn't really matter. Doesn't really change your day-to-day life. But one day you're going to be old and you might end up in a so-called nursing home. And then you might be thinking to yourself, actually, this is far more important than the hoaxes and the fakery. We're talking about family values. And I live in a country now, here in beautiful Plovdiv, Bulgaria. I live in a place where intergenerational housing situations are very common. Even people 30 years old. There are people very common, 30 years old still living with their parents. And you know what? The parents want the kids to stay. They want them to stay. In fact, there's a nice young lady I know. She lives away from her mum. Her mum doesn't like that. Her mum wishes that she was still living with her. It's actually like the tension is when they move out. The parents want them to stay, right? Whereas in the Western world, a lot of people sort of feel their parents are pushing them out. Very common in the Western society, isn't it? And so anyway, the point of all of this is, as much as I love the hoaxes, to talk about the hoaxes and learn about the hoaxes and discuss the hoaxes and the fake dinosaurs and the fake all kinds of things, it's not really important in terms of how you live your life day to day as much as some of this stuff is. And that's one of the reasons why I brought that up on this here member Discord call. Now, we discussed a bunch of other topics. What else came up? We were talking about, do you believe there's someone on the other side of the world who is upside down compared to you? Yes, the shape of the earth. Simulation theory came up. Mandela effect came up. A whole bunch of topics came up. It was, like I said, an 8-hour epic member call broken up into 3 separate 1-hour files for the first part, 1 long 2-hour file for the in-person recording, and then 3 separate 1-hour files for the final Discord recording. Like I said, 17 people from around the world joined me for this epic Remember Discord Call Season 3 finale. Link to that in the info box below, but don't go so fast. There's something I want to tell you about. When I was in my early 20s, I lived in a share house. I was a university student. Very common in Australia to live in what we call share houses, where, and maybe it's the same in your country as well, I don't know, where you'll just end up living with a bunch of randoms who typically also study at the same university, but it's not handled by the university, it's handled privately. And so I ended up in this share house, just a 10-minute walk to campus. It was pretty cool. And I met some cool people there. But one guy moved in after me. So someone had moved out. This guy moved in. And this guy was, and I'm not joking here, folks, one of the dumbest people I have ever met in my life. One of the dumbest people I've ever met. To give you an example, I used to have this thing that we call a George Foreman grill. I'm not proud of it, but I used to cook my food on a George Foreman grill because I was an idiot. Anyway, this thing is covered in Teflon. And again, I know, Teflon, I know. Back then I was a normie, I didn't know any better. So I had this grill where I would grill my chicken as part of my dinner. I would boil some vegetables and I would grill some chicken, was my typical dinner. And anyway, I come home one day and my George Foreman grill, like it opens like this, right? It's all been scrubbed off. The Teflon, not all of it, but like half the Teflon on the main part where you cook the chicken or the meat or whatever, it's gone. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So I go and find this guy. Let's just call him Vincent. I'm like, Vincent, did you use my grill? He's like, yeah, but I washed it. I'm like, what did you wash it with? He had used the metal scourer on a Teflon grill. The goddamn idiot. And even though back then I was a normie, even I knew, well, I can't use this grill anymore because if any of that Teflon gets into my food, like these little flakes of Teflon, this is not good for my body. So I had to just dispose of the grill. This idiot was so stupid that he thought and he must have been rubbing the Teflon off and seeing that, and he kept on doing it. This guy was a moron. He used to go to work. He would work like normal hours, I would say, like your normal 9 to 5, maybe slightly different, but he was a normal daytime worker. He would go to work with this little plastic bottle and he would fill it with cask wine, box wine, as some of you guys would call it. He would fill it with box wine and off to work he would go. Would you like to know what this guy did for a job? He was a carer at a nursing home. That's the kind of guy who, if you put your parents in a home, might be caring for your mum or for your dad. Or if your kids put you in a home, that's who might be caring for you, my mate Vincent. Yes, true story. True story. Goodness gracious me, what a fucking idiot that guy was. And people trust him with their parents. And these people will come to me and they'll tell me, oh, I love my family. Family first. And you put your parents in a place full of Vincents looking after them? That's what you're telling me. You want me to believe that you care about your family, but you let Vincent look after them. Oh, because you're too busy. Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, whatever. So anyway, with that being the case, that was just one of the topics that came up. Like I said, 8 hours of conversation for Season 3, season finale of the Remember Discord Call series. Go and check it out. Link in the info box below. Only one problem. It's only for members of johnthebond.com. So if you're not already a member, then I've got an idea. Leave your comments about anything that I've brought up in this video in the comment section below. And in a day or two, I might come back and do a recording or a live stream, and I might pick out the best response and give that person an honorary 1-month membership for johnthebond.com. What do you think? So leave your comments in the comment section below. What do you think? Is it all a laughing matter, putting Grandpa Simpson in a home? Do you want to go to a home? Are you in a home right now? Are you watching this from a home right now? And Vincent's looking over your shoulder going, it's bath time. We're in a lot of trouble, folks. We're in a lot of trouble. One final thing. What do you think about my singlet, by the way? Yes, this singlet broke. I got this for free 4 years ago when I was in Thailand. I was gifted this by the owners of a bar that I used to go to drink at sometimes. This was their parting gift. It was this old singlet they had lying around. And I quite like it, but it broke. But then, when I was in Germany, staying with a member of johnthebond.com and his lovely girlfriend, and another friend of mine, we were all staying there together. It was great. She fixed it for me. So how about this? What do you reckon? I like it. Very nice. So if you're watching this, you know who you are. Thank you very much. You've done a great job. I think I'll get another 5 years out of this here singlet. I'm very happy about it. So anyway, leave your comments in the comment section. And I'll come back and read out your comments at some point in the future, I hope. And if you are already a member of johnthebond.com, go and check it out. This Season 3 grand finale, goodness gracious me, all kinds of topics, lots of fun. Go and check it out. Big thanks to the 17 people who came and joined us across the 8-hour mega call. It was a lot of fun. Links in the info box below. And I'll tell you this right now. Anybody tries to put me in a nursing home, and, well, let's just leave it there. Shamona.